In J.R.R. Tolkien's fictional universe of Middle-earth, Mordor was the region occupied and controlled by Sauron, in the southeast of northwestern Middle-earth to the east of Anduin, the Great River. Orodruin, a volcano in Mordor, was the destination of the Fellowship of the Ring in the quest to destroy the One Ring. Mordor was unique because of the three enormous mountain ranges surrounding it, from the north, from the west and from the south. The mountains both protected the land from an unexpected invasion by any of the people living in those directions and kept those living in Mordor from escaping. Tolkien was reported to have identified Mordor with the volcano of Stromboli off Sicily. Geography. Three sides of Mordor were bounded by mountain ranges, arranged in a rough rectangle, Erdlithi, translated as Ash Mountains in the north, and the Earth in the west and the south. In the northwest the pass of Cirith Gorga led into the enclosed plain of Anduin. Sauron built the Black Gate of Mordor across the pass, joining the Towers of the Teeth, two earlier guard towers built by Gondor to keep a watch on this entrance. The passage through the inner side of Anduin into the interior of Mordor was guarded by another gate, the Ysenmouth. Outside the Morannon lay the Gelador battle plain. In the interior within this mountainous border lay Sauron's main fortress Barad-dûr, the arid plateau of Gorgoroth, and Mount Doom. To the east lay the plain of Lithlad. A narrow pass led through the Earth, guarded by Minas Morgul. A higher, more difficult pass, Cirith Ungol, just to the north, was guarded by a tower originally built by Gondor. This pass, the Pass of the Spider, was also blockaded by Torrich Ungol, the lair of the giant spider Shelob. The fortress Durthang lay in the northern Earth above Anduin. Nauren, the southern part of Mordor, was less arid and more fertile. Streams here fed the salt sea of Nauren. Sauron's slaves farmed this region to support his armies. To the west of Mordor lay the narrow land of Ithilien, to the northeast Ra'en, and to the southeast, Khond. To the northwest lay the Dead Marshes. Inside the Earth ran a lower parallel ridge, the Morgai, separated from the Earth by a narrow valley that Frodo and Sam followed northward after escaping from Cirith Ungol. Water trickled into this vale from the Earth, and the text describes it as a dying land not yet dead. The vegetation included low scrubby trees, coarse grey grass tuxix, withered mosses, great writhing, tangled brambles, and thickets of briars with long, stabbing thorns. The fauna included maggots, midges, and flies marked with a red eye-shaped blotch. In the Atlas of Middle-earth, Karen Wynne Fonstad assumed that the lands of Mordor, Khond, and Ra'en lay where the inland Sea of Helcar had been, and that the Sea of Ra'en and Sea of Nauren were its remnants. This assumption stemmed from a First-Age world map drawn by Tolkien in the Embarcanta, where the inland Sea of Helcar occupied a large area of Middle-earth between the Erdluin and Rakani, with the western end being close to the head of the Great Gulf. The atlas was however published before the Peoples of Middle-earth, in which the Sea of Ra'en and Mordor exist already in the First Age. Formation: Mordor was a relic of the devastating works of Morgoth, apparently formed by massive volcanic eruptions. It was given the name Mordor before Sauron settled there, because of its volcano and its eruptions. However, only Shelob had settled there before Sauron did. History. Early history: Sauron settled in Mordor 1,000 years after the end of the First Age, and it remained the pivot of his evil contemplations for the whole of the Second and Third Ages of Middle-earth. In the northwestern corner of this land stood Mount Doom or Orodruin, where Sauron had forged the One Ring. Near Orodruin stood Sauron's stronghold Barad-dûr. After this time, Sauron was known as the Dark Lord of Mordor. For 2,500 years, Sauron ruled Mordor uninterrupted. Having wrought the ring, it was from there that he launched the attack upon the elves of a region. He was repelled by the men of Nar-Menor. Almost 1,000 years later the Nar-Menor cubed Rhêns under Ur-Pharazôn and sailed to Middle-earth to challenge his claim to the title of King of Men. He realized that they would overthrow him if he decided to fight, so he let them capture him and bring him back to their island kingdom, where he eventually caused its destruction. Immediately after Nar-Menor's destruction, Sauron returned to Mordor as a spirit and resumed his rule. The Last Alliance and Third Age: Sauron's rule was interrupted yet again when his efforts to overthrow the surviving men of Narmena and the elves failed, and they formed a last alliance of elves and men whose army advanced on Sauron's land. A great battle took place on the Jawad in which Sauron's forces were destroyed and the Black Gate was stormed. The Barad-dûr was then besieged by the Alliance's forces. After 7 years of siege, Sauron broke out and was defeated in a final battle on the slopes of Orodruin. After his defeat the Barad-dûr was leveled and great fortresses were built at the entrances to Mordor to prevent Sauron's return. For over 1,000 years, Mordor was guarded by Gondor and remained desolate, although the watch was lessened somewhat during the reigns of some of the kings. Casualties from the Great Plague, during the reign of King Telumna, were so high that the fortifications guarding Mordor were abandoned as the troops were called back to Gondor's cities. As the guards slackened, Mordor began to fill with evil things again. The Ringwraiths took advantage of Gondor's defeat in TA 1856 to re-enter Mordor, and the final fortresses held by Gondor were abandoned and fell into ruin sometime after TA 1944. In 2002 Minas Ithil was conquered by the 9 Ringwraiths. And the fortifications that were supposed to defend Gondor from the menace inside Mordor were turned into a means of shielding Mordor. By the time Sauron returned into Mordor after his false defeat in Dol Guldur, Mordor was protected too well to be captured by any military might that was available in Middle-earth at the end of the Third Age. In the north of Mordor during the War of the Ring were the great garrisons and forges of war, while surrounding the bitter inland sea of Narnen to the south lay the vast fields tended for the provision of the armies by hordes of slaves brought in from lands to the east and south. War of the Ring. During the War of the Ring, Sauron gathered all his forces to Mordor. After the Battle of the Pelennor Fields, a host of the west went to the Black Gate. In the Battle of the Morannon Sauron sent his army to destroy the men of Gondor and Rohan, but then Frodo Baggins destroyed the One Ring and Mordor fell. The Dark Tower, the Black Gate and the Towers of the Teeth were destroyed. Mount Doom exploded, clearing the sky over Mordor. Both Sauron and his Ringwraiths were apparently destroyed. After the ultimate defeat of Sauron, Mordor became mostly empty again as the orcs inside it fled or were killed. Crippled by thousands of years of abuse and neglect, but capable of sustaining life, the land of Narnen was given to Sauron's freed slaves. Gorgoroth remained desolate in the early part of the Fourth Age. Armor and emblems. The armies of Mordor bore upon their armor and shields the red eye of Sauron on a black field. This was also flown on the banner that accompanied the lieutenant of the Tower of Barad-dûr when he confronted the emissaries of Gondor. Languages and peoples. At the time of the War of the Ring, Sauron had gathered great armies to serve him. These included enslaved men of the east and the south, who spoke a variety of tongues, and orcs and trolls, who usually spoke a debased form of the common speech. But within Barad-dûr and among the captains of Mordor, the black speech was still used, the language devised by Sauron during the dark years of the Second Age. In addition to ordinary orcs and trolls, Sauron had bred a stronger strain of orcs, the Uruk-hai, and very large trolls known as Olog-hai who could endure the sun. The Olog-hai knew only the black speech. Naming, Mordor had 2 meanings, Black Land in Sindarin, and Land of Shadow in Quenya. The root Mor also appeared in Moria, which meant Black Pit. Dur also appeared in Gondor, Eriadoc, and Doriath. The Quenya word for shadow was Mordo. A proposed etymology out of the context of Middle-earth is Old English mora degree or, which meant mortal sin, or murder. It was not uncommon for names in Tolkien's fiction to have had relevant meanings in several languages, both languages invented by Tolkien, and actual historical languages. Tolkien was a professor of Anglo-Saxon, so his word roots tended to be Anglo-Saxon Germanic. An art exhibition entitled *OE The Making of Mordor at the Wolverhampton Art Gallery claims that the steelworks and blast furnaces of the West Midlands inspired Tolkien unregistered trademark S vision of, and his name Mordor. This industrialized area was known as of Black County Euro. The name Mordor was translated as Ea currency in the traditional Chinese versions of the novel and films. The name translated aptly as, a place where demons are many. The simplified Chinese version of the film was translated as Florin 1/2. which meant the capital of the demons. Allusions in other works, it was brought up in the third verse of Led Zeppelin's song Ramble On, among other references to The Lord of the Rings. In Chapter 10 of Outlaw Platoon, his war memoir describing his service in Afghanistan, U.S. Army Ranger Sean Parnell observes, "Looks like we're at the gates of Mordor out here," which inspired the chapter's title The Gates of Mordor. See also Minas Tirith, Notes. References. External links, Mordor at the Encyclopedia of Arda.